Hey everybody, it's Amber here at the B channel, back with another episode to bless, edify, and encourage others to live their best lives. Today, we're going to talk about how to avoid burnout as a creative. Plus, our special guest is going to share some writing tips with us as well. His name is Dwight Thompson, aka the Right Warrior. Tell the people about yourself.
Blessings, blessings. It's so good to be here amongst the living, as I like to call it. My name is Dwight Thompson, aka the Right Warrior. I'm your gospel poet from South Florida, Pompano Beach, 954 stand up. And part of my journey is being able to share my poetry, to talk about writing, and the understanding of how does the publishing industry work. My side gig is as a production slash project manager, and I do business plans and content writing and grant writing proposals and so forth. My true passion and purpose is in poetry and in sharing the word of God through gospel poetry. So that's my thing. And I always say everyone has to write, not just writing an email or writing your recipe, but write creatively, which allows you to express yourself and be in tune with yourself and the fate of the universe.
Yes, I think that is so true because we all are writers in some capacity. We have to write notes, we writing to communicate. We all have different styles of communicating. So, I wanted to ask you, as a creative, it can be all too easy to spend all of our time doing things and going after different creative pursuits. So, how do you avoid burnout? What is your strategy for avoiding burnout?
Listen, it's a crazy thing, but that is our greatest strength, right? Our greatest strength is as a creative, we can easily sit down with a blank piece of paper and a pen and come up with a ton of great ideas and concept and stories and different strategies. However, you have to couple that with executing it, right? With doing the action to follow through. What that means though is that you only have so much time in the day. Between sleeping, eating, spending time with family, working, doing some college courses, you are lucky if you have an hour or two to do social media. If you do it full time, having more time doesn't mean it makes it easier. It just means now you get burnt out faster. So one of the tips I do is I try to limit my social media activity for about an hour or two a day, which works for me because I rather write and edit documents and work than actually do social media. However, if you are in the space like we are as content creators, or if you are selling a product, like I'm always promoting a book or something, social media is where you go to do your connections and your networking. So you have to pace yourself, figure out one or two things you can do for that day and just get it done. It's better to have one thing done for the entire day than have five mini projects that are not completed.
Right, you're spreading yourself too thin. And that is something that I definitely am trying to get better at and giving myself grace and space because you need space to breathe and you need to give yourself grace for those days when you don't have it and you're not feeling it or it's just like it's too much and you feel overwhelmed. So you have to or you're going to crash and burn.
Exactly. And no one wants that because once you crash and burn, it takes forever to get back to a place where you are productive, where you're engaged, where you are enthused again. You
Right.
never want to crash and burn.
Yeah, I've realized how important it is to be intentional about the content that I create, as well as the importance of making sure that I am producing things that are quality versus worrying about how much I'm producing. It's so important because we can just like put out a bunch of stuff, but is it helping somebody? Is it fruitful? Is it meaningful? Does it have impact? So that's something that I am working on as well.
No, that's a fact. And like quality, like for me, so my sixth book is a book of poetry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing a mini series right now because that's another thing with social media. You don't just want to do single posts and single videos. You want to have a collection. You want to have a series. So what I'm doing, I'm translating my book into some lyric videos
Mm-hmm.
where I'm reading my poems and I have a nice nature scene that I recorded myself with a caption. That's a cool series, but it takes time. But I know once it's done, I'm going to have like 10 beautiful videos that folks can listen to me read my poem, see some nice visuals of South Florida beaches, and read the words. And if they feel inspired, they can go and purchase the book. And sometimes it happens in social media where what you're doing has a different outcome than just, okay, go here, click this and buy this, or call me or subscribe.
Right.
Sometimes it's just something for people to enjoy for like 2 minutes and say, wow, that was a nice poem, and go about their day. Sometimes it's as simple as that. No clicking, no liking, no following, no subscribing. Just, wow, thank you for sharing how you made breakfast that morning, and just move on.
Right. I think that it's so important that we understand as a creative that our social media is essentially like our resume, our portfolio, our
Yep,
business card. So it's to give people a little idea of what you're doing. What is it that you stand for? What are you about? So we have to make sure that it's representing us in a way that is helpful but authentic, and being transparent, having those moments, and you just kind of flowing and enjoying it, so we're not just like, oh, I have to do this, but I get to do this.
exactly. Because that's what we want to do. You want, if this is your life,
Hmm.
you want your social media to be on the same level, right? Which means that you have to be authentic. You have to be true to yourself. And if you feel like, you know what, I can only safely, for my mental health, post once or twice a week. If that's all you can do safely within yourself and you're not being lazy, then go for it. But then if you're like, you know what, I've been watching back to back episodes of my favorite TV show. Maybe if I cut down binge watching, I can have more time for social media. That's a whole nother conversation to have with yourself. That time management is so important. And that's
Oh
how
my
you
goodness.
establish what's important.
Yes, like that time management is so serious because if you're not careful, you can spend too much time on the content, not enough time on the rest of your life, or you're edging it out if you're spending too much time in other areas. And if it's something that you're really passionate about, you have to give it the time that it deserves. And so you're not like rushed up trying to do something. But that's like a hard thing to really work on. But it's important that we understand like what can we actually devote to this without going insane, because
Exactly.
it becomes a chore and a burden instead of a blessing when you're like, oh my gosh, I got
Mm,
this and I'm all blocked in and I don't have any space to breathe. So it's like, what can I potentially accomplish and safely accomplish? Like you said, safely is a great word because it's
yes.
like your mental health is so important, and it's more important than, oh, I got to put out 15 posts a day or something. No, what
Come
can
on
you
now.
do? What can you really accomplish in that time period that's like it's useful, it's helpful? I'd rather have one good post a week or two good posts a week than to have nothing. So it's like we have to understand also that not put that pressure on ourselves of saying, oh, I better post this many times or people are going to forget about me. Like, you do feel
Exactly.
that way, but it's like, I want to be doing something that matters and I want to have the right energy to pour into that project, whatever it is that I'm doing at that present moment. I don't want to be like so scheduled up that I'm just like constantly thinking about the next thing and I don't even have space to really be present with whatever I'm doing. So that's something that I'm learning
Exactly.
too.
No, you have to, because, and the reason why I say safely is most folks don't understand what social media is. Social media is not a random game that you're playing. You know, social media is a slice of your life. So if you think about your life, you don't want to go to a party all the time. You don't want to hang out with your friends all the time. And you don't want to go to church 7 days of the week. You know, first of all, Christ should live inside of us. You
Right.
know, we go to church to
Absolutely.
congregate and to confirm each other, but Christ is in us, right?
Right.
But the point is that balance needs to
Mhm.
happen with social media too. So if you're on social media for business purposes, in terms of you're pushing a business or product, then do so. If you're on there to influence and to show people your lifestyle so they can learn from how you live and what you've gone through, do so. If you're on social media as a form of expression for yourself, like this is my therapy. I'm a rant and rave about my coworkers, about my relationship, and I'm gonna share, then do so, but be safe about it because at the end of the day, you have to be able to just woosah and be chill. And if social media is adding stress to you, then you have to reconfigure, find a different process and make it work for you.
Yes, it's so important that we learn to adapt and flow and figure out what we can safely maintain, as you said, because man, you'll be out here, all over the place, and that's why it's
In
important to
these
know your
streets, come
why.
on now.
You got to know your why. Like, why are you on there? Because that'll also
Why?
direct like how often you're posting, what kind of content you're producing, and all of those kinds of things. And it's just like, oh my goodness, like when you know why, that helps you so much when you know why you're doing
That is that why is the biggest. That's like a capital Y. Okay. But here's the thing too. So whenever you make a post or a reel or shorts or a talk or whatever you do, and you put it up there, long form or short form content, you have to think. So for me as a project manager, I go by processes, right?
it. Hmm.
A, B, C, D, E. So if I post a nice video or introduction to poetry workshop as a video with some pointers about how to write poems and how to express yourself, what will the average person do if they click on it? They click on it and they like it. What if they want more? What if they
Right.
want to go to my website and purchase my book? What if they want to contact me? What if they want to find out, hey, are you going to be in a virtual poetry event? How can
Hmm.
I see you live in action, etc.? So in your mind, your post should be an introduction to whatever you're doing, and you should have something to support it. And once you have that ecosystem, it becomes more meaningful and valuable. You're not just posting because you feel like it. There's nothing wrong with that. But
Right.
when you have a purpose, right? Your
Hmm.
purpose should be something that's ingrained into your social media, into your everyday life. So my purpose is poetry. So you better believe it. When I post something, I'm gonna put a CTA. Hey, guess what? My poetry book is out, or I have a poetry course. You know, how about you sign up? Or my intention is also, I want you for those 1, 2 minutes. You listen to me reading my poetry. It makes you think a little bit about yourself, about your life. You know, I've even written poems where the intention is if you hear this and you're thinking depressive thoughts or suicidal thoughts, you just pause for a moment and reach out to someone. It could be me, it could be someone else, you know, because we're all in this together as humanity. And
Right.
your posts and your content should help others realize themselves, understand they're not alone in their struggles, understand that Jesus loves them. You know, even if they don't believe in him, that's irrelevant. You know, you don't have to believe in God for him to believe in you, but he always does.
Right. He loves you. He
He
loves you.
loves you.
Whoever you are, he
Facts.
loves you. So it's
Exactly.
so important. Like when you talked about how it's like what you're doing, your purpose should flow right into your content. I think that's a beautiful
Exactly.
sentiment because if it's like that, it's natural, it's organic. You don't have to force it. You don't have to try too hard because it's going to flow. And then like you were saying about the call to action, it's so important because you have to once you have the people's attention, what are you going to do with it? Like, okay, do you want them to follow you? Do you want them to subscribe? Do you want them to
Correct.
comment? Do you want them to like you said, purchase a product? What do you want them to do with this? What do whatever the content is, like what's the next step? Because okay, you got them, but now what? Here's some more content. And like you were saying with the series,
Exactly.
like the series, like no isolated videos, or maybe even like for me, I would say my biggest thing that I do most of the time is verse of the day. So that's like, okay, you're going
I
to get
like
that. So
that.
that's a continuous thing rather than me having to keep coming up with
Exactly.
all these little trendy things and things like that. It doesn't have to be so like grandiose. It can just be, oh, this is what I'm going to talk about every day, or I'm going to talk about focus on this on certain days. Maybe Wednesdays is one topic. Maybe it can be themes if you want it to be, but you don't have to make it that crazy, because that's another way to burn out if you have too many ideas and you're trying to do them all. Spread them out. Give yourself the room.
Listen, those two things you just mentioned are so key. So the last thing you mentioned, and I'm working backwards, is energy manipulation, right? Being a creative means you're expending energy. You're tapping in to energy from the universe, from your faith, from yourself, but you're also expending energy. So you cannot be a creative unless you have simple discipline, how to control your energy, control your anger, your emotions, deal with your past trauma, understand how to accept constructive criticism from others, how to reject haters. Like that's energy manipulation. Then the first thing you mentioned, which is point number two, when you have a series or when you have this bulk product that you made. So
Mhm.
when you sat down and you said, okay, you know what? I'm gonna make this 1 hour long video of me just going through my refrigerator and identifying everything that's in the fridge. And if I like it, my thoughts on it. That hour it took you to record that video might take you 2 hours to edit it, but you could chop it up and now you have what, 40, 50 little videos,
Exactly.
you
Yes,
know,
you
so
gotta work smarter, not harder. Like,
just
if
take
you
the
have
time.
something long, turn it into teaser videos.
There
Like,
you go.
find a way to use it another way. Like for instance, I have a blog, but I could take quotes from Instagram, from my Instagram posts, and then I could use that to repurpose and make a
Drop it.
blog, or my blog could turn into a live topic on wisdom, or another
Mm,
podcast, or whatever I'm talking about on live could turn into a blog, and vice versa. Just go back and forth. Like, that's how you make whatever you're doing stretch. It's kind of like a budget, really. When you think about it,
it
content is like a
is.
budget. You have
Mm,
so much to work with, and how are you going to make this work for you to the best of your ability so that you don't go beyond the limits? Because you have to have some type of limits, because you don't want to burn out. So that's really the main
facts.
thing.
Facts. And when you are a content creator, especially if you are, uh, I guess a content creator is
Hmm.
slightly different from a creative person, right?
Right.
So sometimes it's the same person. They're not only a content creator, but they're also a creative person. As a creative person, you have to be very much aware of your talent, of your gifts, of your energy level. Some people can paint 10 beautiful masterpieces in one day, but they're done for the next couple of months, right? Uh,
Right.
some some people can write a poem one a week, but they can do it for like the entire year. So that creative person needs to understand, okay, your creative process that you have IRL is different from your content that you create on social media. Because if you try to go one for one all the time, that's going to be a problem. Because some days, as a creative person, you might not want to do anything. That might be your veggie out day, where you
Right.
just grab some
That is
chips
so important.
and you just chill. But now you have the content creation portion on social media is pulling you because you have a schedule. So you got to balance out and understand your time is your most important asset. You know,
Yes.
if you ask someone, do you want to have $1 million or 1 million minutes, and then you die, I think we're all going to say a million
Right.
minutes.
Yeah, because with the time you can make money, but with the money, once the money going, that's it.
It's a wrap.
So just the transition, as part of your creative, um your creativity, you're a writer as well. So how can somebody make sure that they're pacing themselves if they wanted to endeavor to start writing and write a book, or how do they go about that process safely, in your words?
So, the most important thing in writing creatively is, again, why do you write? So, if you are writing because this is your method of self expression, then go for it. If you're writing because you're trying to express yourself in a certain way, like you're trying to tell a story, then you also go for it, but you need more structure now.
Mhm.
So the different stages of writing needs more structure. And a lot of times, if you just make the time to say, you know what, this 30 minutes at the end of the day, I'm gonna let the husband, the wife know, the kids know, I'm gonna turn my TV off, even my cell phone off. These 30 minutes are just for writing. Now, you might not write in those 30 minutes, but you'll put yourself in that mindset, because the greatest obstacle most writers face is they don't have the time, or they don't make the time to write.
Mm.
You know, just like publishing a book. In 2020, when I started this publishing journey, I had nothing on the table, literally. No table, no house, no books, no money, nothing. However, starting it on my phone, just recording and typing with my thumbs, by the following year, I already had 5 books published. So now I'm working on my sixth book, seventh book actually, and I have eight and nine coming out later on this year, because I've engaged the engine, so to speak, and I'm able to recognize, okay, I started the process. So the number one thing with writing is you have to start the process. If you say you want to do 30 minutes every evening before bed, go for it. If you want to do maybe 2 hours on a Saturday, no interruptions, walk down to the local park, have a little light picnic for yourself, and just write,
I like
go
this
for it.
idea.
Yeah, come on now. That's what we're here for. We have to
That is
encourage
really
each other.
cool. That's really
We
cool
have,
about the picnic. I was like, oh, this sounds like a great scenery to write. I
listen,
feel
come
like
on
it's
now.
very inspiring to be like out in nature like that. And I think that it's so important what you said about making time, because I can attest to that. Like this morning in the wee hours, that was my time. And also to give yourself grace if you decide that you don't want to
Mm,
write whatever that is that you had planned on writing. Because I know as a blogger, sometimes I'll be like, I have all these ideas, and then I'll be like, this seems stale, or I feel like I'm forcing this. So
facts,
maybe
facts.
give myself the grace to just explore some prompts, because one of the beautiful features that you'll find on like a WordPress blog is they actually have prompts. So you can go through them and see if anything is really like sticking out at you, and they
There
change
you go.
throughout the weeks as well. So you don't have to worry about it just being the same old ones. Like they have different ones. They constantly changing the prompts. And also one of the things I love to do is guided journaling, because that really helps you get into that process, like that discipline of writing every day, something, thinking, being introspective. So
I, I'm so glad you mentioned journaling, because that's the number one thing. This is my journal that I designed. If you
yeah.
don't have a copy of this, get it. But you could use anything. You can go to your local store, order a journal from Amazon. But here's the technique though. You want to have two journals.
Hmm.
You want to have one journal that's just your idea journal. Like find a way to organize it, maybe writing ideas, another section for business ideas, another section for
Hmm.
family vacation ideas. just for ideas. Then you want to have another journal where you actually strategically write. So you'll have maybe the first half is for stories, and the back half, of course, is for poets and for poetry. But so this way, whenever you are in a thinking, brainstorming phase, you go to your idea journal. And whenever you are actually sitting down and writing your poems or your stories or your childhood memories, you go into the writing journal.
Right. I think that's important too as a creative to have somewhere where you have your thoughts written down so you don't feel like you have to be all clogged up trying to do everything before you forget.
Facts.
Write it down and strategize that way and get the thoughts out of your head that way. Then you always have your thoughts somewhere. And then as far as like you said, that journaling, just like, stream of consciousness, whatever you're thinking at the current moment. I as somebody who believes in God, I like to do the guided prayers, and sometimes they will
Love
they will
those.
help me think about things too in a different way. When I really sit there and think, that'll help me. Cause then it's like even like studying and you taking notes, like if you doing Bible study and you taking notes, it's like I find myself really enjoying writing, the process of writing the synopsis. Like, what did I get from this? What stuck out to me? How can I edit this down so it's not an ebook for somebody to read? So it helps me to work on my editing
Thank you.
skills, you know? So I'm working on that. I feel like that's been very helpful, even though sometimes you feel like, oh, I don't know if I want to write all this, but it's important to learn how to express yourself
You
and then
have
go
to.
back and say, how can I shorten this?
Exactly. And I'm so happy you mentioned studying. One of the things that we have not learned is how to study properly, right?
Mhm,
Because studying is how you increase your knowledge.
mhm.
And whether you use the Pomodoro technique or whatever tips you have, working in like batches of 30, 40 minutes, taking a break, then going back again is so important. Forget about multitasking. Multitasking is not a thing. I'm going to tell everyone this. I've
Because
been
you're
a
not gonna
business
be focused.
professional for over 20 years. Yes, multitasking. Okay, so sidebar. From a professional point of view, here is the double edged sword of multitasking you should not sacrifice your career on. If you multitask, two things will happen. Number one is that you won't be able to focus, like you just said, and you'll be spread too thin trying to get a lot of different things accomplished. Okay, so that's bad. The second thing that can happen is worse, where you become so good at juggling multiple things at the same time, everyone expects more of you, and you become more and more overwhelmed by multitasking all over the place until
Right.
eventually you hit that B word, burnout again. So
You don't
it's
know
a
how to
double
sit
edged sword. Exactly. So, no, multitasking out the window. We don't want it. No, thank you. You do one thing for 35, 40 minutes. Take a 10-minute break, come back again, 35, 40 minutes, 10-minute break, see how you feel,
I
judge your
love
energy,
that.
and then come again. It's the Pomodoro technique. There's a lot of variations to it. It basically says do one thing for a certain period of time, take a break, and go back to it again. If you want to switch it up and go between two things, so for example, if I'm working on a business plan, I can probably do like maybe 2 hours, so two sessions before I'm like, okay, this is too much numbers and theory. What's going on? So I might do like 2 hours of the business plan and then 1 hour of editing a manuscript where I'm just reading a fantastic story and just looking for grammar errors and proofreading stuff, as opposed to doing research on the business plan side. But
Right.
you have to know yourself and just pace yourself. Put the time aside, 30 to 45 minutes, take a break, and go back again. Forget multitasking. And trust me, half the ideas that you write down in your idea journal, you will never do, right?
Mm.
The point is you write them down, A, reduce stress, because the more stress you have on your mind, the
You're
harder it is for
offloading
you.
by writing.
Exactly. So you have to offload the stress. So you put your ideas down. So now you're like, okay, that's a cool story concept, but there's no way I'm going to write that in the next 5 years. I have too many things lined up. So you put it in here and you put it aside. If you get back to it, or if you sell the idea to someone, or you give it to a ghostwriter, that's separate and that's different. What you
Ooh.
focus on is what you can do with the time that you have. And I always say the number one rule is you want to serve God. So once you serve God, that's the number one rule. Only what you do for Christ
Will
matters.
last. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Peace, love, unity, treat your neighbor as yourself, love God above all else. The second thing you want to be able to do is find happiness,
Mm-hmm.
right? And happiness is not from money, happiness is from your purpose,
Ooh.
from being within how you feel and how you sleep well at night, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the third thing is that, okay, in order to pay the bills and in order to achieve success in some terms, in order to take care of the family, I need to have ways of making money. And a 9 to 5 is good. Entrepreneurship is good also. If you can do both, all the better. And you always line up everything back to your purpose, back to your value, back to what makes you complete and what makes you happy.
Yes, this is so true. Like it all starts at your purpose because that's like the core of everything. When you know your why, everything flows from there. So it's like
Exactly.
what you were saying about writing things down and you're not able to get to it. I think that was brilliant because that's how it is in life sometimes. We feel like everything has to be right now, but maybe it could be later, or maybe you let the idea marinate and then you see later on down the road, do you want to revisit it? Like I did,
Fam,
like I was talking
come
about
on
the
now.
blog topics. I write the blog topics down. It doesn't mean that they're set in stone. These are just ideas. I'm just brainstorming. So okay, I went back to it and I was like, I don't know about this. So scrap it. You know? So it's that's how you have to like deal with it. Like, okay, is this something that I think that I can really accomplish? Is this something that I really want to do? Is my heart in this topic when I'm writing this? Is this something
Mm,
I feel passionate about? Do the words flow naturally from my fingertips when I'm thinking about this?
there you go.
No?
There you
Okay, then I'm
go.
not writing it. If I'm writing it and it's just like, oh, it's just like water, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be writing about. So it's being led by the Holy Spirit. Really, that's what it really boils down to, and you'll have more peace in your content, all of the content that you make, because it's like, oh, it feels so natural. It's like I don't have to force it, you know. So that's where
Come
the
on
best
now.
content comes from. And like you were saying about taking breaks, if you have a Microsoft operating system on your computer, you can take advantage of the timer setting, and they also have focus sessions. So that means that it'll tell you when you need to take a break. Like it'll tell you, like you can actually set how long you want the break to be and everything. And I've used that before, like just checking emails, like okay, and then it'll be like okay, it's time
Yep.
to take a break. And then sometimes you can also set it to not give you a break. But that's just a helpful little tidbit if you got the Microsoft operating system. And I don't know if they have that on other computers, but I have experienced it on here that you can
Facts. Come on
actually
now.
do that. And I was like, oh, that's cool because sometimes you need a little help with your focus.
Come on now. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. Come. The best of us need help sometimes, you know. We're
Yes.
not in this journey by ourselves. You know, we'll meet people along the way who have similar experiences or who are able to see things from a different perspective than us.
Hmm.
And sometimes you just have to learn from them. Sometimes you have to just take their notes and just apply it to yourself. You know, so there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with sharing knowledge, nothing at all.
Cultivate those seeds. Cultivate those
Hmm.
seeds that others pour into you, that they plant into you, and make sure you're not a gatekeeper once you learn whatever you're learning. So that's
Listen,
something
we
that's
don't
important
support any gatekeepers. Down with the gatekeepers.
yeah, like it's a community effort. Like it's like what
It
me
is.
sharing is not going to like take away from what I can do because guess what? God gave me what I can do specifically for me. So whatever
Amen.
that you do is for you. I can't do what you do and vice versa. So it's not like
Listen,
I'm affecting myself in any way by helping to say, look, I learned this. How this is how you do this. This is what I learned about that. You know, so that's what we have to learn.
no, you're so true about that. I call it knowledge share. right? So one of the things I did in my business of publishing and editing and developmental processes is I said to myself, okay, here are some things I do that makes money, right? Being a developmental editor, formatting books, ghostwriting, writing business plans. That makes me money. But here's the things I can do that I can share because me sharing this information helps other people understand themselves and do their process. So one of my projects is the family memoir. And with that, I have a whole ecosystem I'm still finishing up right now. But the concept is as much as I can, I'm going to make sure that folks can go to my pages and click on a button and see how to produce their own family memoir, which is
Wow.
basically you record your elders, the grandparents, the aunts and uncles who have all these stories about their childhood and where they came from and how you were born and so forth. You record all those stories and you put it into a Word document, Microsoft Office again. You edit it, you upload it to Amazon or one of those other publishing companies that will print it for you, print on demand, and you pay like $4, $5 sometimes, and you have your own book in your hand that you can give as a gift or share during the family reunion. And this is a way that
Oh,
you can create
wow.
legacy
That's
for your
amazing.
family that costs nothing from your pocket. So what I do is I show the process and I have audio rooms on LinkedIn and I have infographics on Instagram and on YouTube just talking about it, where it's just like, here's the information. You can Google it to verify it. You can review it in Amazon KDP and you can figure out what you want to do. And then guess what? If you have a particular stumbling block, call me, set up an appointment, book a call with me. There's no charge for that because it's under Family Memoir Project. And we just talk. Ask me whatever stumbling blocks you may have. I'm a published author. I know the ins and outs. What is really bothering you? Oh, you're having a problem in margins. Okay, how about we just take the entire text, copy it, put it into a new document, and set up new margins. You know what I'm saying? Like troubleshooting, stuff you can do on your own. I want you to do, but don't let the process seem too difficult where you want to quit on it,
Right.
and that information should be free. So I always talk about a family memoir, publishing your own book, do it your way, not the gimmicky stuff about, oh, become a millionaire by writing a book overnight. That's a lie.
Right.
No one, no one makes money like that from books. Even the ones who have made it, you know, they make their money from the rights of their works and for syndication on television shows and from speaking engagements. That's how
Right. It's
most
the
authors
it's
make
the
their money.
peripheral things that help make the money. It's
Exactly.
not necessarily the book.
Exactly. Yeah. So having a family memoir book just for you, and you can even put pictures in there. You know what I'm saying? It's a great concept, a great legacy item for your nephews and nieces and your children. And it just takes time.
Right.
It just takes time. You can get it done. So for me, that's my free service, one of my free service to the world. I'm a social media content creator, social media manager. I'm an author, published poet. But guess what? You can do on your own, just by doing some research, put some time in, a family memoir for your family. Think of it like a family tree project from school, that your kids would do, but instead, it's a book that you publish on your own. You own everything. You pay per book for what it costs as the author, and you can do this. It's 2024. We have the technology. We have to use it wisely, and we have to make sure we leave something behind for our families. Family.
That's so true. That's so true. So do you have a seed that you would like to plant for the listeners as far as something that they can take away from this episode if they don't remember anything else about writing or about how to avoid burnout as a content creator? What would be that one seed that you would plant for them?
Jesus loves you. We know this. And what God wants for us is to live in a way that's practical, that's real, that's helpful and kind to others. Now, a lot of times, though, that means we have to do a lot of work on ourselves. If you have anger issues, if you are impatient, if you procrastinate a lot, that work we have to do for ourselves. We have to ask God for guidance to overcome that and be able to tap into our true purpose. So here's the takeaway: write. You must start writing. Have a structure, have a plan, and write. Not on a napkin, not on a piece of paper. Get a journal, get a book. If you have a favorite book that you love and it's large print and you want to write in the margins, write in between the words, if you have a Bible that you want to make notes in, go for it. Okay? You write because it helps you formulate your thoughts, help you organize your life. And then from there, you realize what you want to do and you just execute. Less talking, more doing.
Wow, that is so great. It's true about the journaling too, because I filmed that actually like early this morning. I had written something that they asked me a question, in one of the journals in the journaling prompt, and it said the exact same thing that it said in the writing prompt. So I was like, you know what? Okay, so that means that I have a topic here, and I already have something, a foundation, because I've written a few
To
words, and it
build.
didn't even take that
Yep.
much. I wrote a few words, and those few words was the fuel for the blog to be able to say,
There you
oh,
go.
this is what this
There you
topic
go.
means, and I was able to expand just from that. So it's really not as difficult as we make it to be sometimes to write. We just have to choose to be disciplined, take the time, like you said.
Ooh, yes.
So that is definitely something to work on this year as a blogger, and just, somebody who wants to possibly venture into that space as a writer.
You have to be. We need everyone to be a writer on their own space, on their own time, and do their thing because we lost a lot of good writers over the years, which always happens. And every writer, especially the poets, they
Mhm.
represent their society in that moment. So there's something wrong with society, the writers and the poets speak about it. If there's something
Oh
great in our
yeah.
society, we write and speak about it. So we
Oh
need every
yeah.
writer to live in their truth, to be authentic, and to use their voice. No one can take that choice away from you.
Yes. That is awesome right there. That is so awesome. It's so true. So do you have any um social media that you would like to share with
Oh,
people?
definitely. Definitely. So you want to look up the right warrior, as in right, the right warrior on all social media platforms, Instagram, fan base, YouTube, LinkedIn. You can find me there mainly. I shifted most of my content to LinkedIn because I'm getting better responses on there. On Clubhouse, I'm there also, Bigo, a couple other apps, but mainly LinkedIn and YouTube. You can find my content. And my book series is called Pine Cones and Spaceships. This is book 6. You can find it through Amazon. Just type in Inner Sanctum, Protecting My Peace Through Poetry by Dwight Thompson. The first book is called Pivot, and that is a memoir. So this is the cover. It's called Pivot by Dwight Thompson. And of course, I have my own 284-page journal, which is pretty cool because it has writing prompts, as you just mentioned. It has sections on how to develop a business plan, how to understand poetry. There's a couple of mental health sections in there also,
Hmm?
uh, college essay guides and everything. So it's pretty cool. And there's a section that also says, like, for example, things I wish I knew X years ago. You
Oh,
know,
I
just
like that.
just be to think about, like, okay, if this was 10 years ago, what would I have wished I knew then so I can make better decisions? But it's a trick question because what you knew now, what you know now that you wish you knew then, you know it now. So you could
Right.
act on it.
Right. You only know what you know when you know it. So it's like you got to give yourself grace. So
Exactly.
I really appreciate you joining me today. Those were some great tips. And don't worry, y'all, all his information is going to be in the description box below.
Bet.
So, thank you so much for joining me. And make sure y'all go follow the Right Warrior on all his social media platforms and follow me at B Channel 27 for more of this content everywhere. All my information will be linked below as well.
Thank you
Thank
so much. You
you
are
so
phenomenal. Let me say that. You and what you're doing in these spaces, like you don't understand. We get confused a lot of times by thinking we have to go big and go hard, but nah. Jesus stopped and looked for the one sheep,
Yes,
okay?
the
That
power of one.
one person, the power of one, because you don't know whose life you will change your impact. So thank you for doing these spaces and for being you. Pun
Thank you
intended.
so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right. We'll see y'all next time. Peace and blessings.
One love always. I salam.
All right.
Hey y'all, what did you think about today's episode? Please drop a comment below or leave a review or a rating on Spotify or Apple so that more people can find out about this podcast. If you loved it, be sure to give us a follow and tell a friend and share it with somebody else you think would really appreciate this content. Also, be sure to DM me at bchannel27 on Instagram if you have any feedback, you have any books that you would like me to read, any topics you would like me to discuss, or you would like to do a collaboration. I cannot wait to hear from you guys. But until next time, peace and blessings.